Hey, what's up, everybody? I know normally I don't do recaps of TV shows, but I figured in this case I would add an exception to the rule. And I figured the one in particular that I know will probably get people some laughs is that much derailed crap fest and just like that. And the reason I figured I had to review it because it's just so bad that y- it's like so bad that you just want to see how much worse it can get, and it's kind of like an example of what not to do if you're going to revive a show. And the reason that I say that because it feels like, all right, the original Sex and the City had its flaws. It wasn't perfect, especially the movies, but in comparison to this crap fest, it's like Oscar worthy compared to how the show de-evolved into like something that's almost unrecognizable. And the reason that I say that because I mean, even though Kim Cattrall didn't want to reprise Samantha after what was done to her character in the second movie, and quite honestly, I don't blame her. The way I see it, she kind of saved us did fans a favor by not appearing, even though like, many fans like myself would have wanted Samantha to appear because to me, it's like the absence of Samantha is kind of like the best way to example is like the Golden Palace, like you know even though in that case Beatrice Arthur, you know, you know, ended the Golden Girls at the time because she wanted to move on after 7 years. Even though in that case, B. Arthur did appear for a two-part guest spot, but uh, the thing is, it's like certain shows, you kind of need all of the ensemble to work. Otherwise, it just falls apart. Another show I could kind of think of that kind of follows that model is Girlfriends. Like after when Tony left the show, it just I mean it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't the same. And it's kind of like, you know, I mean sometimes there are some shows, that can, sorry, sometimes the change can work and it just doesn't work, and it especially doesn't work for and just like that. And it's like joyless. It has no purpose. The storylines go nowhere. It's like Miranda's like almost something unrecognizable, and it's almost like there's no stakes for the show, no nothing. Like, I mean, Miranda, how would I say it? It's almost like Miranda gets rewarded for cheating with no consequences, for her actions, compared to like, when Steve cheated on Miranda in the first movie, she was all pissed off and things. It's almost like I would have wanted to see that kind of reaction from Steve's character, like, kind of like to give her karma, for what she done, but nothing. And then it's like it feels like storylines are like appear on the show, and then it's like they get dropped, they don't get mentioned, nothing. It's like what the hell were they thinking, you know, agreeing to, produce this crap fest in the first place? It seemed to me like it was nothing more than just like a woke fest, checklist agenda, you know, and it seemed like you know I mean the show was so desperate to kind of like uh trying to atone for the mistakes of the show's past, with the diversity issue, that it almost seemed like the diversity characters were more like token characters, rather than uh characters of their own. And I'll be honest, like the newer characters like Naya and Lisa and Seymour were actually more interesting. But the problem is, it felt like the storylines, like the show itself, didn't really feel like they were going anywhere, and that's kind of what pissed me off. I'm like, if you're gonna do a revival, do it right, do it with all four of the original characters, or don't do it at all. I mean, and expect these writers and executive producers, they shouldn't be praising this garbage that uh, they put on, act like it's quality work when it isn't. I mean, I'll just say this: if they really want to do fans a favor, cancel this shit show, because I'll say, I mean, as a Sex and the City fan, and even though I'll admit the second movie isn't the greatest, but however, in comparison to this crap fest, it's definitely, at least in that case, it's definitely more entertaining, and the characters kind of felt like themselves. I mean, like, even Carrie in this, In this reboot, she kind of feels like she's a side character in her own show, and it's almost like a total insult. I mean, the fashion is just horrible. The characters, even though they're supposed to be in their 50s, act like they're 80. Like, come on, give me a break. Like, these writers are just a joke. I mean, that's pretty much all I can say for. I mean, I guess for those like myself that really hated this Craftfest revival, I'd really like to hear what people think. Uh, That's all I can say for now. Thank you again, fans, for everything.